Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Requesting Qibla Talim Moosvi for his series of lecture for 29th Ramadan. Qibla is going to be a conclusion पेश करेंगे अपनी all his lecture tonight inshallah. Ba'ad buland salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad.
Please recite Surah Al-Fatih for your marhumin and for the marhumin of those that helped in tonight's iftar. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. As-siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghayril maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Qul huwallahu ahad. Allahu samad. اللهم اغفره وارحمه واسكنه بجوار محمد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدته القائلون ولا يوسينا معه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون الذي لا يدركه بهد الهمم ولا يناله غوث الفتن الذي ليس لصفته حد محدود ولا نات موجود ولا وقت محدود ولا أجل ممدود فترى الخلائق بقدرته ونشر رياح برحمته ووتد بالسخر ميدان أرض ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وحبيبنا وحبيب رب العالمين بالقاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعن على أعدائهم أجمعين من أول يوم ظلمهم إلى قيام يوم الدين أما بعد فقال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه مبين وقوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وقضى ربك ألا تعبدوا إلا إياه وبالوالدين إحسانا صدق الله العلي العظيم. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My original topic was going to be something different, but I had received a message about the rights of parents. And when a parent asks me to do a lecture on the rights of parents, then it starts making me think about what is the reason that this parent wants me to speak about this topic. Why? Because that means that this parent is feeling that their children are not giving them their right. And what the youngsters need to understand is that when it comes to the right of parents, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this verse, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Meaning what? And your Lord has commanded. And your Lord has commanded that you shall not serve anyone but Him. And He's commanded what? Ihsan to your parents. This is a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you show ihsan, you show goodness to your parents. And what does this goodness mean? Inshallah, we'll get to by the end of the lecture. But one thing is clear from this verse of the Quran, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded it. He's not asked for it. It's not no, He's commanded it the same way that He's commanded, and not just command. Look at what He's comparing. Look at the two things that He's put together. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said that He's ordered you to believe no God except for Him. That is what? That is the concept of Tawheed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is putting Tawheed here. He says, I've commanded you with Tawheed that you obey your parents. With Tawheed, you completely obey, you have faith on Tawheed, and you obey your parents. Yes, Inshallah, we'll get to the rest of the verse when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says you don't need to obey your parents. There are circumstances when the children do not need to obey their parents. But those circumstances only involve what? Those circumstances only involve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning what? Meaning that if the parents are telling you not to pray, you don't listen to them. Meaning that if the parents are telling you to do something that is a sin, you do not listen to them. What do I mean? I'll look at boys and girls. If the daughter wants to do hijab, and the mother tells the daughter not to do hijab, for whatever reason, it's wajib for the daughter to listen to the command, obey the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and disobey the command of the mother. Okay? Why? Because the mother is telling the daughter to do something that is against the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The mother is telling the daughter to do something that is haram. So it becomes wajib for the daughter to obey the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and disobey the commands of the mother in this instance. Correct? When it comes to the guys, if the son wants to do something that is wajib, which becomes necessary for them to do. Meaning what? Meaning that, for example, now it's become wajib for the son to get married. He's old enough. He can take care of himself. He's old enough to get married. He can take care of himself. It's become wajib. Why? Because now there are shaitani waswases that are coming his way, and he might lose. He might get off the path of Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. He might get off the path of Islam. He might commit something that is haram. But if the parents are telling him not to get married, then he doesn't need to listen to the parents. He doesn't need to listen to the parents. These are the instances where the children do not need to listen to the parents when the commands of the parents are in disobedience or they're contradicting the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Other than that, it's necessary for the children to listen to the parents. What does the Holy Prophet say about listening to the parents? The Holy Prophet, he says that the ghazab of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lies in the ghazab of your parents. The anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lies in the anger of your parents. The anger. Meaning what? Meaning if you get your parents angry, then you can say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is angry. The happiness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lies in the happiness of your parents. What does Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam say about parents? The Imam, he says, all of your amals will be accepted if your prayers is accepted. All of your amals will be accepted. This is the month of Ramadan. Imam, he's saying all of your amals will be accepted. Meaning that this fast will also be accepted if your prayers have been accepted. But the Imam, he goes on to say that if anyone even looks at their parents angrily, forget saying something. No, if anyone even looks at their parents angrily, even though the parents might have been unjust to them, then their prayers aren't even accepted. Forget all the other amal. If all of the amal are reliant on namaz, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he says that the namaz is reliant on the happiness of the parents. The namaz. This is all of the amal. Hajj, azadari, everything is reliant on the happiness of the parents. And yet today, in the society that you and I live in, we all know, we all see where the children do not give the due rights to the parents. Yet, what happens, because we're living in the society, we have friends that do that. What do we end up doing? We end up looking at our friends, not looking at what Islam says, not looking at what Imam Sajjad says about the rights of the parents, not looking at what Imam Jafar Sadiq says. No, we're looking at our friends to figure out how we should treat our parents. We're looking at why? Why are we trying to emulate our friends? We live in a society where a 10-year-old can threaten the parents with police. Why? Because they discipline them. So what happens? The parents, they're afraid of doing anything because the government can come, the police can come, they'll take the child away. And this child, because there was no discipline that happened at home, later on they end up growing up not caring about any of the rules. Why? Because even if they break them, who's going to stop them? No one stopped them when they were younger. No one stopped them at home. Alaykum salam wa rahmatullah. So who's going to stop them now? When it comes to the rights of the parents, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He goes on to say in that same verse, after saying that it's a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you show kindness to your parents, He goes on to say, whether one of them or both of them, they attain old age, do not even say uff to them. Do not even say uff to them. Do not even say anything that will displease them. Don't say anything that will repel them from you, but address them with honor. Address them with honor. What does this mean, address them with honor? What does this mean? Look at the way the youngsters, maybe they have a job. The respect that you give your boss, do you give at least that amount of respect to your parents? The respect that you give your teacher, do you give at least that much respect to your parents? Yes, your teacher is considered to be a parent. According to Islam, you have different parents. One, the parents that have raised you. One, the parents that you're born from. The parents that have raised you. The mother that has given you milk. The mother or parents that are teaching you. Islam says all of them, they come under the umbrella of parents. Do you give your parents the same amount of respect that you give your teachers? The same amount of respect that you give your boss? If you don't, then what's causing you to give them more respect than your own parents? And you have youth, like I've said, forget verbal abuse. Forget emotional abuse. It comes to a point where there's physical abuse of parents. The parents are getting older now. Now because this youngster, they're in their teens, they're in their 20s, they're in their 30s, they're at the prime of their youth. They feel like they can speak back, not just speak back to their father, not just talk back to their father, but try to show the father, yes, I'm the man now. Look at the rights that Imam Zainul Abidin, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad, Risalatul Huquq, Imam Zainul Abidin's Risalatul Huquq, he is given rights for everyone. In that he's given the rights of the mother, he's given the rights of the father, he's given the rights of the child. What happens a lot of the time? A lot of the time what happens is that neither of these three individuals is giving the other their due right. The father isn't giving the wife her right. The wife isn't giving the husband her right. The child isn't giving the mother the right. The child isn't giving the father the right. The father isn't giving the child his right. The mother isn't giving the child their right. So it's not just one person not giving the rights of, no. Now the whole family is not giving each other their rights. What is the right of the mother, for example? And when it comes to the right of the mother, what is the most famous narration of the Holy Prophet? What does the Holy Prophet say about the mother? He says that you remember, Al-Jannatu tahta aqdamil ummahat. Know that Jannat is under the feet of your mother. Know that Jannat is under the feet of your mother. Meaning it's in her happiness. Why? Why has Islam, or why did the Holy Prophet use such a narration, why not the feet of the Father? Why not the feet of the Father? Even when it came for the mother, a companion of the Holy Prophet, he comes to the Holy Prophet and he says, Ya Rasulullah, who should I show goodness to? The Holy Prophet, he says, mother. After, mother. After, mother. After, father. 3 times the Holy Prophet says mother, 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 and then the 4th time he says father. Why is that? Why is it, for example, in Islam, jihad is wajib? Yes? If a youngster is capable, but there's no need for them to go to jihad, the mother tells them to stay. It's wajib for them to stay. It's wajib for them to stay. A youth came into the time of the Holy Prophet and he said to the Holy Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, I really want to go to jihad. The Holy Prophet asked him, then what prevents you? And he says to him, my mother's old and she needs someone to look after her. The Holy Prophet, he tells him that stay with your mother. Stay with your mother. One night by the side of your mother is better than a year's worth of jihad. One night by the side of your mother making her happy is better than a whole year's worth of jihad. Do you see that? Why has Islam given this amount of precedence to the mother? Why? Because of what Imam Zainul Abidin says. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. He says, the right of your mother is that you know that she carried you where no one carries anyone. Where no one carries anyone. She gave you of the fruit of her heart that which no one gives to anyone, and she protected you with all of her organs. For how long? 8 months, 9 months, 7 months, whatever the case is. 9 months. And he goes on to say that even after you came out, she didn't care about anything that happened to her. All she cared about was you. She didn't care if she went thirsty as long as you were satiated. She didn't care if she went hungry as long as your stomach was full. She didn't care if the sun was burning over her head as long as you were in shade. She didn't care about any of that as long as you were completely safe. And many of us, we forget this. We forget this. That our mother actually did this. And when we get older, we start speaking back to them. The rights of the mother. The right of the father, what does the Imam say? He says, the right of your father is that you know that he is your root. He is your root. If you see any goodness within yourself, know that it came from him. Know that it came from him. And we forget that. He goes on to say what? He goes on to say, when you see that goodness within yourself, you should thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for passing that good trait on. Not just thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for that trait, thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for your father having that trait and for him passing that trait on. And what happens a lot of the times, after our parents pass away, we end up forgetting about them. In forgetting about them in what sense? I'll get to. A companion of the Imam Jafaria, he comes to the Imam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, and he says, Ya ibn Rasulullah, is it possible that we're obedient to our parents in their lifetime, but disobedient to them after they pass away? Imam says, yes, that's possible. He says, yes, that's possible. And the man, he asks him, how? He goes, look, while your parents are alive, they have some rights. After they pass away, they have some rights. So it may be possible that in their lifetime you were obedient to them, but after they pass away, those rights that they had after their passing, you did not give them their rights. So that makes you disobedient. That makes you disobedient. The man, he even asked the Imam, Mullah, what will happen? He goes, Mullah, what will happen to that person who was considered to be disobedient to his parents while they were alive, but he was considered to be obedient after they passed away? What will happen to him? The Imam, he says, on the Day of Judgment, he will be considered to be obedient to the parents. Mullah, what will happen to that individual who was obedient to the parents while they were alive, but disobedient to them after they pass away? He will be considered to be disobedient on the Day of Judgment. Why? When he says that, he goes, Mullah, why? While they were alive, there's a good possibility that you were obedient to them because you wanted something from them. You were waiting to receive something from them. And a lot of the times, this is what happens. What do I mean? Kids will listen to the parents if the parents bribe them with something. Correct? Youngsters will listen to the parents if the parents allow them to do, for example, a certain act, give them something. They'll listen to the parents. Are they listening to the parents because they're the parents? Or are they listening to the parents because they want what they're offering? They want what they're offering. So they've taken it out of their mind that, no, I should listen to the parents because they're my parents. I'm listening to them. Why? Because they're going to give me something if I listen to them. The man, he asked him, Mullah, how will you become a disobedient child after they pass away? Imam, he goes, look, you have to remember that if a parent passes away, they might have qaza prayers. If a parent passes away, they might have qaza rosas. They might have qaza fast. If a person passes away, they might have these qaza wajibat. And he goes on to say that you have to remember that it's wajib on the eldest son to make sure that these wajibat are taken care of. If they're not taken care of, then that child will be considered to be disobedient in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. 1. 2, you have to remember the will of the parent. And you make sure to act on that will to a T. If you don't, then you're considered to be disobedient in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. 3, your parents have a right that you pray 2 rakat and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to send the sawab of that namaz to the parents. Mustahab prayer. These are the rights after they pass away. Does everyone do this? No. When it comes to wajibat, I can't do it. Can you pay someone to do it? No, I can't pay them to do it either. Then why can't you do it? What's preventing you? If the eldest son can't do it, does that mean that the others don't do it? No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. This respect of parents, brothers and sisters, this isn't something to be taken for granted. This isn't something you have to remember. Look at the way, for example, the Holy Prophet. Leave the Holy Prophet. I know someone, that's the Holy Prophet. That's the Holy Prophet. We can't be like him. If I was to say Imams, leave the Imams. We can't be like. Even if I was to say Abul Fazl Abbas alayhi salam, Lady Zainab, we can't be like them. That's absolutely true. We can't be like them. But does that mean that we can't take their good character traits and apply them to ourselves? No, it doesn't. The good character traits that they had, we can make them ours. And that's exactly what we're supposed to do. That's exactly what we're supposed to do. In the time of the Holy Prophet, there was a youngster, he was about to pass away. And as he was passing away, he starts to yell. The Holy Prophet is by his head and he's telling this youngster, recite the kalima. The Holy Prophet is telling him to recite the kalima. He's not able to do it. He's not able to do it. When he's not able to do it and he's describing and yelling about what's happening, the Holy Prophet, he looks around and he says, is his mother here? Is this young man's mother here? And the mother, she was standing behind the Holy Prophet and she said, Ya Rasulullah, I'm his mother. I'm his mother. And he asked her, has something happened between you two? And she says, Ya Rasulullah, we haven't spoken to each other in 5 years. He hasn't spoken to me in 5 years, because of which I disowned him. And the Holy Prophet, he looks at her and he says, I'm telling him to recite the kalima, he's not able to do it because of what you've done. If you do not forgive him, he's going to go straight to hell. If you do not forgive him, he's going to go straight to hell. What did she do? She says, Ya Rasulullah, I forgive him. I forgive him. When she says, I forgive him, now the youngster, he stops screaming. His heart is content. He's at ease. When he's at ease, the Holy Prophet asked him, can you tell me what you were seeing? He goes, Ya Rasulullah, before I was seeing a very dark figure come towards me, and that's why I was screaming, because of the image. He goes, and then what happened? After my mother forgave me, that very dark figure, he left, and there was a figure of light that is coming towards me. A figure of light. Why couldn't he recite the kalima? Alaykum salam wa rahmatullah. He couldn't recite the kalima even though the Holy Prophet was telling him to recite the kalima. He wasn't able to recite the kalima. Why? Because of the badua of the mother. Because of that. And you have youngsters today that don't look at these stories. They don't learn from these stories. All of these stories are for us to learn from, not for us to just read and gloss over and move on. No. Salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. But one thing, I don't want to just scare the youngsters. One thing I want to do is let the elders know. If I was to ask the elders, what's the right of the child? How many of the elders would actually know what the right of the child is? Do you see what the problem is? The youngsters do not know what the right of the parents are. The parents don't know what the right of the children are. When I don't know what someone else's right is, how am I going to be able to give it to them? How am I going to be able to give it to them? The society that we live in, this society seems to care about rights. Seems to care about rights. This is the same society that the youngsters are growing up in. So when these youngsters don't see their right being given to them, then they're not going to give the other person their due rights. They're not going. I'm not arguing whether this way of thinking is right or wrong. No, because this way of thinking is absolutely wrong. Just because someone else does not give me my rights does not give me the right not to give them their rights from an Islamic perspective. But the culture that we live in has an effect on individuals. It has an effect on individuals. And this is what the culture does. Give the parents their right, but give the children their right. For example, if you look at the Quran, how many times in the Quran do you see the parents giving rights to their children? Do you not see that same thing happening when it came to Hazrat Ibrahim and Hazrat Ismail? Who was the one that saw the dream? The father. Hazrat Ibrahim was the one that saw the dream, correct? What does he do? Does he not go and tell Hazrat Ismail, oh my son, I've been seeing this for 3 straight nights. What do you think? Why does the father go? Why does the father, who's a Nabi, who himself knows that this is a command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, why does he go and ask the son, what do you think? Because the son is old enough now where he can differentiate between right and wrong. So the father is going to the son and asking him, what do you think? They have that right. When it comes to important matters, when the children have gotten old enough and you see that they're old enough, include them in those matters. Include them in those matters. Do not just decide for yourself and say, hey, whatever I decided is going to happen. No, there's going to be pushback if that's how you... If you decide to run the house that way, then there's going to be pushback. There has to be give and take. Whether it's in the house, whether it's in the community, it doesn't matter. There has to be give and take. But we don't do that. Some people, they just want to take. That's it. Whether it's a child or it's a parent. And they don't want to come to a compromise. And this is where everyone needs to come to a compromise. When it comes to the rights, especially the rights of the parents, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what does He say? Anishkur li wa liwalidain. When you thank me and thank your parents. When you thank me, you need to thank your parents also. How many of us thank our parents? How do you go about thanking your parents? Do you all know the most important thing your parents could have given you, you all have had? But if I was to ask you, have you thanked your parents for that? Many of you would say no. Something that is more valuable than the whole world itself, the parents have already passed on to you. What is that? The wilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Why do I say this? In the time of Imam Jafar Sadiq, a companion of his, he came to the Imam and he says to the Imam, Mullah, I have nothing at home. Can you give me something? Can you give me something? Imam, he says, no, you have so much. You have so much. Mullah, I have nothing. Imam, he says, no, you have a lot. This time, the man, he says, Mullah, I swear to God, I have nothing. Mullah, I swear to God, I have nothing. Imam, he says, I swear to God, you have something that's more valuable than the world. Now he's quiet because the Imam himself has told him that he has something that's more valuable than the world. And the man, he goes, Mullah, what is that? He goes, you give me back the wila of Amir al-Mu'mineen that you have, I'll give you as much money as you want. You give me back that wila, and I'll give you as much money as you want. The man, he said, Mullah, I can't do that. Then the Imam says, didn't I tell you you have something that's more valuable than the world? That's something to thank the parents about, that they pass that on. But we don't. How difficult is it to thank the parents right after namaz? Thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving you parents that passed on that wila of Amir al-Mu'mineen. It's not much difficult, but we don't do that because we don't look at our akhirah like this. We thank our parents for giving us a bicycle. We thank our parents for buying us a car. We thank our parents for helping us financially. But when it comes to the afterlife, we don't give it thought. We don't give it a thought. When in reality, that's what they truly should be thanked for. That's what they truly should be thanked about. Salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. A man, he came to the Holy Prophet and he tells him, Mullah, who should I be good towards? Who should I be good towards? Be good towards your mother. Again, after mother. For the third time, then he says father. Another man, he comes to the Holy Prophet. The Holy Prophet, he tells him, if you want your sins to be forgiven, be good to the mother. If you want your sins to be forgiven, be good to the mother. The man, he says, my mother passed away. Then be good to your father. But after the youngster leaves, he tells the other companions, it would have been better if his mother was alive for him. It would have been better for him if his mother was alive. Why? Because the mother has more rights than the father. Why? Like I said, Imam Zainul Abidin in his Risalat al-Huquq, he says that the mother has those rights. She bore this child. The father provides for the child. But it's the mother that raises, bears, raises, and takes care of the child. So when it comes to these rights of parents, especially the youngsters, please be advised, one of the fastest ways for the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to come on you, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't even wait for the afterlife, where He'll punish you in this world, is what? Do you all know? When you start breaking off relations, especially when it comes to breaking off relations with parents. Qatl rahim. And the Imams, they say that that is one of the fastest ways for the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to come on an individual. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not wait until the afterlife to do this. No, He does it in this world. And you see the effects of it in this world. If you look at, if I was to talk about some of the ulama, for example, Sheikh Murtaza Ansari, and when the elders, they might know him, where he was one of the top maraja of his time, and to this day, if you want to become a marja, you have to read his book. You have to analyze his book. To this day. Sheikh Murtaza Ansari, his mother had passed away. His mother had passed away. And at the janazah, he was crying profusely. When he starts to cry, his students, they come to him and they tell him, Sheikh, it's not becoming of you to cry this much. Look at your status. Why are you crying this much? The Ayatollah, he tells him, leave me alone. The only reason you're saying this is because you don't know the status of a mother. It's because of her I was able to achieve everything I did. I got to the status of marja because of her. Or, you look at Edison. If you look at the life of Edison, Murtaza Ansari, I know everyone has this blank look, like what is he talking about? Look at the life of Edison. When you read the biography of Edison, you find out that Edison was taken out of school by his mother. Why was he taken out of school? Because the teacher thought that he was an idiot. The teacher thought that he was an idiot, that he couldn't learn, he couldn't understand anything. The mother, she goes to the teacher and she tells him that it's not that my son's stupid, it's just that you don't know how to teach. You don't know how to teach. I will take him home and I will homeschool him myself, and you will see what a great child my son is. She took him home. She was teaching him books that were written by Plato and Socrates. At what age? At the age of 10. She was teaching him mathematics that they will start doing in high school. When he invented the light bulb, everything happened. They asked him, what was the reason behind your success? And do you know what he says? He says, the reason behind my success was my mother. Why? When everyone else had given up on me, she had complete hope in me. She's the one who took me home. She's the one who taught me herself. Even though the teachers and my friends in school, they would continue to laugh at me thinking that I was completely dumb. Yet it was my mother's love that proved to the world that no, it's not that I'm dumb. It's just that everyone else does not understand me. And you see everything that he's achieved. He attributes his success to who? His mother. Sheikh Murtaza Ansari attributes his success to who? His mother. His mother. So when it comes to these rights of parents, please, especially the youngsters, give them their due rights. And just remember, this is where I'm going, because some of the youngsters weren't here in the beginning. The narration of the Holy Prophet, or the narration of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, where he says, look, even if they were to stare at them angrily, even if they were to abuse them unjustly, their namaz would not be accepted. Their namaz would not be accepted. I know we have about 5 minutes. I'm going to open up the floor, and then I myself want to go see if the moon is visible. And I encourage everyone, please, the narrations, they state that everyone should go out and look for the moon themselves. Do not wait for a committee. Do not wait for someone else to go. No. Everyone needs to go out and look, whether it's the beginning of the month, the end of the month. Everyone needs to go out and look for the moon themselves. If they don't see it, then you wait and see if anyone else has seen it. This going out and looking for the moon, no one is absolved from this. Everyone needs to go and look themselves. If everyone just waits, what's going to happen? What has been happening? You find out the last minute. So please, everyone, try to look for the moon. This is the reason that I want to stop this maybe 6-7 minutes earlier, because I myself, if it's clear sky, I myself want to see if the moon's out. If I don't see it, then I've done what I needed to do, and I can say I didn't see it. That's it. So before we end, any questions? Itamas dua, inshallah. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive our sins. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive the sins of all of those marhumin, mu'mineen, mu'minat that do not have anyone to ask on their behalf. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the real prince of Imam Zaman. Let us, our families, be able to sacrifice our life for him and his cause. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. And please, once again, recite Surah Fatih for your marhumin and for the marhumin of all of those that took part in providing tonight's iftar. Bismillah. Bismillah.
We have 10 minutes.
We have 10 minutes right now?
Everybody must go outside, go out to check the moon. If it's a moon, we have Eid tomorrow. If no moon, we have Roza tomorrow.
If there's a moon, there's...
No moon, so the Roza tomorrow, inshallah.
For the rest of you, yes. For me, it's Eid, no matter what.
Maualana said it doesn't matter moon or not, Eid has Eid tomorrow. Only we have 6 minutes left. You can do your wuzu, or you can go outside with the Maualana and check out the moon. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.